Welcome to the Collabo podcast. Thank you for listening. So, hello and welcome to the Collabo podcast. I'm here with Tom.
Hello.
How are you, Tom?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I was just listening to last week's podcast. Kotomi was on. It was amazing. Did you listen?
No.
What?
What was it any good?
Yeah, it was great. Kotomi came on and talked about child labour.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Well, that's when children are forced to work to get money. They have to do the same kind of work that adults do.
For money? That doesn't sound too bad.
Well, it can be okay, but some work they do is okay. If they do sort of light work or maybe helping in a shop or helping their parents out. Sometimes it's okay if they're doing a little bit of work, but some of them have to do a lot more, and some of them have to do dangerous or very difficult work, so that's not acceptable.
Okay. How many children are involved in child labour?
Well, it's a lot all over the world. Around about 1 in 10
Wow.
children, so that's 10% of children across the world involved in child labour. So that's 152 million children between the ages of 5 and 17. And then of those, almost half, so that's 73 million, are involved in dangerous kind of work. So that's pretty bad.
Wow. So what kind of dangerous jobs or dangerous things do children do?
Well, they do lots of different dangerous jobs, unfortunately, but one example is working in mines, which is kozan in Japanese.
Kozan, okay.
So, for example, many children work in gold mines, particularly in Africa, but also Asia and South America. It can be very, very dangerous. They have to work in tunnels, so underground. And the tunnels can fall down and collapse and they can die. There are also problems with explosions and there's gas sometimes, and they have problems breathing, so they can be very dangerous.
It does sound very dangerous. What other dangerous environments do they work in?
Well, if you'd have listened to last week's podcast, Tom.
Sorry, Kotomi.
Kotomi mentioned farming.
Okay.
So most children involved in child labour, I think it's about 60% work in farming or agriculture in some way. So that's almost 100 million boys and girls working in that area. And sometimes it can be quite dangerous.
So why is working on a farm so dangerous?
Yeah, it doesn't sound as though it could be dangerous, but sometimes children have to work with dangerous machinery. Sometimes they have to work with chemicals and pesticides which can hurt their skin or damage their skin.
Okay.
And sometimes they don't have proper safety equipment, and even if they do have safety equipment, it's for adults, so it doesn't fit properly.
Okay.
So it doesn't give them proper protection.
So, what is causing child labour? Why do so many children around the world have to work?
Well, the answer is poverty. Just that people don't have enough money. If families don't have enough money, they often rely on the children to do some kind of work to get money. And so there's a very strong relationship between poverty and increases in poverty and child labour.
Okay. So, what's the UN doing about this?
The UN are the United Nations are trying to take measures to stop child poverty. We've talked recently about Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
So number 8 on the Sustainable Development Goal list is to stop all child labour by 2025.
Okay.
But they are a bit behind schedule. So the United Nations has decided that this year, 2021, is the International Year of the Elimination of Child Labour.
Sounds good.
So they are looking at ways to try and abolish child labour. And what they're asking to do is they're working at a country level. So they're asking countries to have a minimum age that children start working. And also they want countries to introduce laws which stop child labour.
Okay. Has COVID-19 and the pandemic had any effect on child labour?
Yep, unfortunately it has. It's made the situation worse. So there are more children involved in child labour, and that may increase in the future as a result of the pandemic.
Why is that?
Well, the COVID-19 is causing economic and social problems all over the world. So although we're kind of okay in Japan and the UK, it's a big problem in developing countries. Parents are losing their jobs because of COVID-19. And this will mean families become poorer. And as we talked about before, there's a very strong link between poverty and child labour. So if people become poorer, then children are more likely to go into child labour.
Okay. What's happening to schools?
Yep. Again, the pandemic has had a negative effect on schooling. And that has a direct link to child labour. So when schools close, children can't go to school, and there's an opportunity in a way for them to work. The United Nations estimates the pandemic has closed schools in 130 countries, and more than 1 billion children are currently not going to school.
Wow.
And obviously we've got the added problem that parents are out of work, not able to work, so maybe they don't have enough money to send their children to school as well.
Okay. So what's the UN doing about this?
Well, the United Nations is suggesting a number of measures or a number of things to stop children working. And they're pushing for school fees, so the costs of schools to be reduced or stopped altogether. And the United Nations is asking countries to pay more in sort of social welfare payments and trying to give easier access to money for poor families.
Okay, well, it sounds like a very complicated situation. Is there anything we can do personally? Can we help somehow to stop child labour?
Kotomi on last week's show...
Sorry,
Kotomi, Tom didn't listen. She talked about this a little bit. So just to recap, we all love cheap products,
yes.
But we do need to think about why products are cheap. So, for example, we can check the websites of manufacturers to see if they have a commitment to child labour policies. For example, I checked the Adidas website recently, Adidas Sportswear. They have a lot of information about how their company is committed to stopping child labour. So one thing that we can do is we can check the websites of brands or products that we like and see what the child labour policies are for that company. Okay,
that sounds like a good idea. What about if there isn't any information available on the websites?
Well, if you are worried, you can write to companies and ask them what their child labour policies are. Mm-hmm. So in the springtime, I wrote to Starbucks,
really?
For example. Yeah, and I asked them what their child labour policies are to see if I would get an answer.
Did they answer?
They did.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I got a very comprehensive answer from Starbucks within about 24 hours.
Wow.
And they said that although they can't control the laws in other countries, they said they are committed to stopping child labour. and they have a commitment where they won't employ companies, or they won't contract with companies who have children under 14, and they prefer that no children under 15 are involved in the production of their beans.
Prefer. Okay. I'm slightly suspicious, but okay, that's good they answered, yeah.
Yeah, I think they did, and they're obviously trying. I think they have perhaps they can't control the laws of the countries they work in.
Right.
But I think, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah, I understand we have a responsibility to make sure, companies are doing their bit to tackle child labour. I think we need to think about the products we buy, and like you said, check the websites, check where our products are coming from, checking labels, checking packaging, things like that, and maybe even writing to companies to ask them what they're doing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So, we need to think about child labour. But that's it for today.
Okay.
I'll see you next time.
See you next time. Sorry, Katomi. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Collabo podcast. Please tune in next time.